Hello, and welcome to the next MSI 2025 video. We're going to look at these teams a bit. So we're going to look at the teams. Who are the key contributors to these teams? Who's making the plays? Who's getting the gold? Who's getting the damage? Regular season compared to playoffs. If, for some reason, you skip around these videos and you want to skip around this one, you will be completely lost on the second half of this video, and I will not feel any sympathy. So, here we have regular season, then we have playoffs. We're going to discuss how these things may have changed for some of these teams and the differences within them, and then afterwards talk about how teams approach draft. So, here, 90% of these teams play through the support more often than anything else during the regular season, right? The only team that did not have the leader in kill participation be their support was T1. Owner was the one that was creating for T1 during regular season the most, more than anyone else. But when you get to kill participation in the playoffs, which is a smaller sample size, things changed. His teams adapted, figured out what would work to get them to this event. Who took the bull by the horns and said, I'm going to be the playmaker here. So more teams, only half the teams actually use the support continue to be the leader. BLG, CFO, Koi, FlyQuest, and Furia, were the 5 teams that continued to play through the support more often than not. Busio and JoJo, 4 out of every 5 kills. And then even at the lower end of things, Kaiwing, 73%, as the team fought all over the place. And when we look at the KPs in regular season, by the way, 71% for BLG was the leader for his team. That was by tiebreaker because he and Bashwan technically had the same exact kill participation during regular season, but because regular season split in half, we used Game of Legends. Tiebreaker went to On. But the majority of the time, On's involved, but the team fights away from him as well at 71%. But Alvaro, 79%. Alvaro was involved in 4 out of 5 of Koi's kills during regular season. Gold share. You look here, it is blue. It is all blue on both sides. What does that mean? The 80 carries continued to lead their teams in gold share. Feed the 80 carry, give them gold. Now, during the regular season, 8 of these 10 teams, rounding 24% of the gold, went to 8 of the 10 80 carries. Only GAM and FlyQuest had a 80 carry with 23% gold share. And in part, if you notice, those 2 teams are the 2 that had a top laner leading damage, because the top laner took on a larger gold share than other teams did, as Kiaya and Bwipo led those 2 teams in damage during regular season and got them to the opportunity to be in the playoffs. Another team that had a top laner lead their team in damage, Gigo of Furia, 27%. We have Hongq and JoJo leading their teams in damage in the mid lane with CFO and Koi. So the majority of the teams actually didn't have their 80 carry leading them in damage, and Chovy, 27% for gen.g. So, despite the 80 carries leading every team in gold share during the regular season, less than half the teams actually had their 80 carry leading in damage anyways. So you see where the meta was in terms of who's getting the resources, but not where the damage was coming from. And then you say to yourself, but the 80 carry, attack damage carry. You do have to wonder, were all these guys weak side? Ayu looked weak side. Masu, here or there. Supa played pretty weak side during regular season. Doggo, you would have liked more out of him. Artemis, Gam plays through Kiaya. And Chovy obviously is world class. But then you get to playoffs, and the 80 carries took over for 8 of these 10 teams. In the end, the 80 carries were the ones that were dealing the damage, except for Furia with Gigo, and Anyone's Legend with Shanks, who also led his team in kill participation. Shanks' 81% KP actually was the second highest in playoffs behind Ruler in terms of involvement. Ruler was involved in 83% of gen.g's kills in that 5-game set against HLE. Of course, a very small sample size. But Anyone's Legend, Shanks was the one putting the team on his back and getting things done, and that's why people like to say Shanks is better than Knight, but I look farther than what happened yesterday to figure out, that matchup from my perspective. But then a player like Artemis for GAM, Guma for T1, playing through the 80 carry these 3 teams. Artemis, in the end, leads his team in damage during the playoffs. he overcomes Kiaya in that way. Supa over Jojo, Masu over Bwipo. Masu ended up with 30% of his team's damage along with Hansama and Ruler. Guma, 32% of his team's damage, taking the team on his back. So really only Hope, Elk, looking at this, Hope, Elk, Hans, and Gigo were the only 4 players that led their team in damage in both the regular season and playoffs. Continue to be the carry for their team more often than not in that category. But yeah, so something interesting. Really usually it's a jungler historically that leads the team in kill participation, but this meta, it was the support for 9 of these 10 teams in the regular season. That's pretty interesting. So now on to the second half of this video. Okay, so we got a little guide at the bottom here. This is color coded with a bunch of numbers 1 through 3. So these numbers indicate. So we have banned by. So gen.g banned 1 top laner, 1 jungler, 1 mid laner, 380 carries the most. So out of there's 6 most banned champions during the regular season. Half the time, well, I don't even know half the times, even though I said 3 of the 6 most banned champions by gen.g were 80 carries. So they were more worried about banning 80 carries than anything else during the regular season by percentage. But then against them, teams were more worried about the solo laners in the case of Keen and Chovy, 2 and 2. But we see for playoffs, things changed. gen.g no longer banning 80 carries, freeing up Ruler, giving him options, and choosing instead to ban a couple supports and kind of help Duro out, which made some sense. And then against them, teams, shifted their bans more to Canyon Chovy, which makes sense. T1, we see all that really changed by them in terms of banning champions was, during playoffs, they kind of worried about top lane more than support, but everything else stayed the same. But against T1, teams really shifted to banning junglers. Half of the top 6 banned champions are junglers against T1 in playoffs. Anyone's Legend, we see the top side taking 4 of the 6 bans. So they were making sure, we're going to give Flandre and Tarzan a decent opportunity in these games during the regular season. And we saw against them 2 and 3. So in draft, you've got out of the 12 most banned champions in an Anyone's Legend draft during regular season, 9 of them were top or jungle, which is, and it's only all of them top jungle 80 carry out of the most banned. But then in terms of playoffs, things shift a bit. Mid lane starts taking on some of those, especially during playoffs against Anyone's Legend. People not wanting to play into Shanks. We just talked about how Shanks did so well. In terms of BLG, banned by. BLG really worried about, helping Knight out, helping that mid lane matchup. Half the time, their 6 most banned, 3 of them were mid laners. That would change during playoffs as it would just go down to 2. It was a wide spread for them against opponents. BLG obviously have a very good team. 4 of their 6 bans during playoffs going to the bot lane. CFO, top lane taking a lot of bans. Regular season and playoffs, banned by. Obviously covering for Driver and Rest. Both of them are not perfect. We see that mid-jungle, they weren't really too worried about helping Junja and Honkyu out. Honkyu actually didn't require any bans all season long. In terms of their most banned champions, a mid laner doesn't show up. 80 carry shows up quite a bit. Half the time, most banned champions. I keep rewording that. I'm trying to do this video. 3 of the 6 most banned champions by CFO were 80 carries, which is a lot, right? That's a lot of, you see all these other teams, right? How many have 3? Not many. That's how I should have started this video for this half. CFO are banning more 80 carries than anyone else. Look, they banned 3 during the playoffs, 3 during the regular season, 2 during playoffs. They're eating 3 bans as well. We see in terms of, this is how we're going to do this now. Top lane, we see Koi and G2. In terms of being a team that is trying to cover for their top laner, trying to help Broken Blade and Mirwin, there are a lot of bans. FlyQuest did the same thing. Just really worried. Topside, Koi, really covering for El Yoya as well. 2 of their 6 bans going to the jungle role. Against them, 3 of the 6 during regular season going into El Yoya. So 5 of the 12 going into El Yoya in some way, shape, or form, whether it's for or against him. During playoffs, that changed to 3. Mid lane ended up taking on 5 in terms of against. Koi eating some mid lane bans. Teams trying to get JoJo off his game. Against G2, people weren't really banning against Caps because Caps could pretty much do anything. 80 carry bans. We see that Furia. A lot of people wanted to ban IU's champions because he's a young player, probably a limited champion pool. CFO, like we said, Doggo. They're trying to cover for Doggo a lot. Support. Who really ate a lot? Well, BLG against them. People really wanted to kind of limit what On could do. Support really wasn't an area where people gave a lot of bans to. And in part, it was mainly just Nico. Some Nautilus. I think one team faced the Alistar bans. For the most part, though, it was like, hey, there's not many champions that are going to be picked in the support role. We can't limit our own support by banning too much. It's mainly the other 4 roles and who is going to take the brunt of it. I mean, against G2, people were banning against Guman quite a bit during the regular season. 3 of the top 6. That would change during playoffs as, that would spread more to BB and Hans. Those were the players people were more worried about. FlyQuest, it was hard to ban against them. Out of the top 6, it goes across the board. It's the whole rainbow. All 5 roles face some sort of ban. Furia during playoffs had to do that as well. Yeah, I mean, I don't think other teams really did during playoffs. No. It was just Fly and Furia that had to deal with bans across the board. I'm not really a big fan of the way I did this half of this video, but if it comes across well, it comes across well. You can see the changes, right? We have regular season above playoffs. The numbers change of the top 6 band champions by a team in the regular season and then during the playoffs. What roles are they indexing in? We see that gen.g, for example, like I said, went from 1 ban to 2. During playoffs, they said, we're going to help Keen out a bit more. But against, teams changed their bans. Instead of banning against Keen so much, they took that ban and focused more on like Chovy or Canyon. And that's kind of the way I should have worded it. But it is what it is. If you didn't see yesterday's video, I did a piece for Moss Esports. They uploaded it today. I'm going to put the link in the description. I appreciate Eric giving me this opportunity. It is... I can't believe that I've even been given an opportunity to even talk about Furia or any other team. So thank you for that. Thank you for following my channel throughout this journey. Subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, become a YouTube supporter, and hope to see you again tomorrow.